God bless Highlight, Andrew.
God bless Highline, Nate. Thanks for having me on.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm excited. I'm buzzing, not only because of the last two game day results from Clone Cartel, but because I'm joined by Andrew Blechman himself, voice of the Fronton here, Battle Court's finest here, him and Stu. How are we doing tonight there, Andrew?
Oh, Nate. Well, first of all, it's a treat to be on here. I feel like this was always going to happen. It was inevitable. Benny told me about when he went on, and I love what the Cyclones stand for. They got a great fan base. Love
Absolutely.
what you're doing for the sport. So I appreciate coming here. But yeah, boy, tonight was, 4.5 points. I don't really know if, you could have done much better coming into today. I mean, down two players. It's really unprecedented. I mean, sometimes we've had one player hurt, and typically that player is like a five or a six. We've never had two players in the top four that have been out. But the Cyclones are battling their way
Mm-hmm.
through it. I mean, Bueno did a great job today. Manu, I mean, obviously, he's a rock. I mean, he's a tremendous player. Ferronda, I mean, did what he needed to do. Rock, I mean, literally a wall back there. I mean, he was doing some good stuff. So all around performance, and not a bad spot for a team that's been kind of decimated by injuries early on. So you guys definitely have a shot.
I 100% agree.
Yeah.
These last two game days could not be happier. And even in this hurt stretch, one of those game days was up against the Renegades, who
Yeah.
they've been doing that to everybody, healthy or not,
Boy. Yeah.
taking down every single point except for like one match in a game day, sometimes blanking people here. So I'm
Yeah.
I'm happy with Clone Cartel and where we're at. Normally, the first question I ask our guests is, "How did you get involved in Highlight?" But I'm gonna throw a curveball at you here,
Sure.
Blackman, and I'm gonna say, how grateful are you that the Fireballs and Cyclones happened before Texas, Georgia? Because let me tell you, if
Yeah.
if the Clone Cartel was there and we knew we could throw trash on the field to get a
Yeah.
call changed, what's going on
Wow.
with this enhanced interference here, costing us a potential point there? Explain this rule to me here, Blackman.
Yeah. Well, I got to go back to the history of the rule. I think when the rule was first brought in, I vividly remember the scenario, and I remember El Barbo was playing, and he like swiped at somebody's cesta as they were trying to
Oh,
make a throw.
oh,
And
Barbo,
I
man,
looked at
it all
that.
comes back to the face of American highlight every time.
Absolutely. Filippi, I don't know. Philippi, I don't know how to pronounce it, but the finest from West Virginia. So something that happened. And then I said, hey, we probably have to make a rule that protects the player who's throwing the ball from the defense doing something like that. So that scenario on Friday night, by the letter of the law, I think where it gets confusing is that Hormachea caught the ball and then he finished his throwing motion.
Mm-hmm.
With interference, you have to stop. With enhanced interference, more times than not, and I think every single time where it's happened, the ball has come out of the basket and the player hasn't even had the opportunity to throw the ball. So I think where it gets confusing is that the ball was thrown to the outside. Hormachea caught it, and while making that catch, he made contact with Blech. Right there, that was the enhanced interference, and the whistle should have been blown. I think that's where it gets kind of confusing because the play went on.
Mm-hmm.
Manu threw a soft two wall. Looks like the point's over in favor of the Cyclones. The referees, they had to call on the chief judge. The chief judge is sitting back there and he does the replay reviews. They weren't necessarily sure on the rule. They thought that maybe something had happened. They thought that it was enhanced interference, but they didn't really know. So they wanted to clarify with the chief judge. And the chief judge said, if there is any form of contact with the player that catches the ball and the defensive player, that is enhanced interference, even if they continue to throw. So I think the problem was the whistle should have blown sooner and the play should have stopped. Um, because, again, what it turned out to be was a point for the Cyclones on a soft two wall.
Yeah.
So it's
Mm-hmm. A
bad that
great
it
two
kept going.
wall. The
Right.
best
Just a
soft
little,
two
yeah,
wall you've
just a
ever
little
seen.
well, dinky too. Well, I've been calling for that more in like a 5 or 6 doubles match, like something like that. But it was perfect. A little splitter, split them up, nobody close to it. And then they went back and were like, was that enhanced interference? It was. I mean, that's the rule. And it's just if the player who catches the ball makes contact with the defensive player as they're making the throw, that is enhanced interference, whether the ball comes out of the basket or not. So, that was tough just because of how late the call came.
Yeah.
But I'm a sports guy, and a lot of times, like, it's hard to be upset if the call is right. And I just think how it happened may not have been the best. And obviously, that's something that, the judges will work on, and the chief judge will communicate that with them before. And so it won't happen that way. It was just a shame that it was a point for the Cyclones. Then it ended the set. Momentum completely flips. And, Bueno and Manu are emotional players. And, I'm the
Mm-hmm.
same way when I compete. And that,
Yeah.
you know, it's hard to say. Did they lose the third set because of that? I think it
Yes,
certainly
I'm gonna
played.
yes, 100%
It
certainty
certainly,
they lost it. I saw it in their eyes. I looked and I said they don't have it because they know the cards are stacked against them. And what I'm afraid
yeah,
of, Blechman, is that we're gonna eventually get a battle court that's just a bunch
sure,
of players running around trying to bang their cesta into each other to get a point.
yeah,
Close the loophole.
yeah. I think that there will not be any more confusion where that rule is concerned. And it was a late call. It was a Friday night. There was a lot going on. The crowd was loud. It's hard to hear the whistle, and it just should. I mean, simply, it just should have come sooner. But at the end of the
Yes.
day, as a sports fan, if it's the right call, that's the call that should have been made. But I can understand if I were Bueno and Manu, I probably would not have been happy either. That's
I
just the
I
react.
concede nothing. I
You know,
concede nothing. I was gonna say I concede the point to you. You made some great points, but I'm gonna actually end it with I concede nothing.
yeah,
Concede
I
nothing.
understand. I understand. I would feel this, but if I were them, people were saying, well, they still had a third set, but it's you know that the
It's a
way that
little
that match was going,
Liberty. Yeah,
it com-
Liberty Links. Am I being a little bit of a poor sport? Okay, now you convinced me. Okay, I'm being a
no,
poor sport.
no,
Where they
it's
had the third set, they
yeah,
could have done it.
they could have done it, but you have to also realize that they were, mentally at that point probably a little more checked out because of, that's like, I mean, I can't believe what just happened. They're
Mm-hmm.
like, we've never really seen a call that way where the chief judge has to come in and overturn it. It was the right call, but that's just that won't happen again. I could assure you that way a player continuing the point,
Good.
winning the point, and then getting that reversed,
No
that
fan
situation
base,
won't
no
happen.
fan base, let alone
Face,
the
no, that
best face fan base in all
absolutely,
of Battle
yeah,
Court should have to go through that.
no, absolutely.
So, how did you get? I'm always curious. This is
Yeah,
it's sport. I was introduced to it through the
it's a good.
Levitard show. Knew nothing
Yeah,
about it. I've come
sure.
to enjoy it. Honestly, I'll tell you, highlight is actually the sport I probably watch the most out of like all the sports.
That's awesome. Yeah.
How'd you get involved in highlight?
So my history in highlight kind of goes way back. I proudly say that I'm a third generation degenerate on the Blechman side of the family. So parimutuel wagering, that type of thing doesn't really exist anymore, but it runs in the blood. So I was exposed to horse racing, highlight, not really so much dog racing. That's not really something that we condone. But my family had horses growing up. My grandmother lived in Florida, West Palm Beach, typical for if you're a tribe member like myself, you have grandparents down here in Florida. So we would always come to highlight ever since I could remember, probably 3-4 years old. We were up at Dania Beach Highlight, and that's where I was first exposed to the sport. My dad was up at the counter wheeling off numbers, quinellas, trifectas, exactas, pick threes, whatever you want. Just I remember him rattling off those numbers. I remember being in the fronton and just it was just the mystique around highlight. Being such a young kid, it just felt like something I shouldn't be doing, and it was so cool to have that
Mm-hmm.
sport that nobody really knew about. It felt like kind of a hidden treasure down here, and I mean, just the lights, the speed, the action, the players, the catching, just everything about it was captivating in a young age. And every time we come back to Florida, which was probably multiple times a year, my brother and I would always tell my dad, and like, we want to go to Highline. So
Mm-hmm.
from 3-4 years old till I was probably 17 or 18, we were watching Highline. I came to school at the University of Miami, did broadcasting. And then after I graduated, there was an opportunity to be a part-time highlight announcer and personality. So I was like, well, I was looking for a job. I didn't know if I wanted to go back to Chicago where I was from or if I wanted to stay down in Florida and just continue down, doing something related to broadcasting. So this opportunity came up. It wasn't really a broadcasting role. It was more like, announcing,
Mm-hmm.
but it was close. I was speaking, I was involved in sports, and I've always been a huge fan of that and something that I wanted to do. So I took the opportunity right away. Um, and then since then, I mean, the program has really grown tremendously. I mean, starting off as a part-time announcer, now we do 3 broadcasts a week for Battle Court. We have our Pelota games in the morning, the days that we play Battle Court at 1:30 also, and we do those. So it's it's really been a journey. It's highlights kind of been around me my whole life, and it was such a great opportunity. I couldn't pass it up, and I was fortunate enough when I interviewed that they were like, "I can't believe you actually know about highlight." I think that was the
Uh-huh.
first thing that they said. They're like, "You have to be like, you're like, you got to be kidding! Like, there's nobody your age that knows highlight." And I'm like, honestly, like we're just sickos. Like we've been doing this for our lives. Like I know, like
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know everything. I mean, I didn't really know it like that much about parimutuel wagering, but I knew enough, and I knew enough about Highline. I'd seen it that they were like, "This guy's young. He just went to
Mm-hmm.
Miami. Like, he's just like, this is kind of the direction we want to go." So, like, I kind of sensed during that interview, I'm like, I feel like I got the job, and then started, and now it's been, well, that was 2019, so 5 years later, almost, so 5.5 now. So
Mm-hmm.
it's been a lot of fun.
What do you think Battle Court has improved on when it comes to highlight? Because it's very different from your, well, not very
Oh
different, but there's
yeah,
some
oh
big
yeah,
differences between your traditional highlight. Like, I love the team aspect there,
sure.
that you have these teams and a game day. The smaller court, I think, makes for some really exciting plays that you don't see as much on the larger frontons. What do you think Battle Court has improved on?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the sport, I think you kind of nailed it with it, just the exciting play. One thing that people say about highlight, and I'm not one of those people. I don't want to be, I don't want anyone in the bass country coming after me. I love the sport. I love the sport traditionally. I go to Dania. I've gone to Miami. I watch any form. I watch matches overseas and everything. The traditional game is a lot more dependent on dying the ball like off the back wall. We talk about like the chula and the chick chack where like it hits the spot where the floor and the back wall meet and it's
Mm-hmm.
like not a returnable shot. So in traditional highlight, the chick jack and the chula are a lot more prevalent. So the points rarely end with shots and two walls and in that type of action that the glass court, the smaller court, really affords. So that's what I love about Magic City. I mean, it just kind of everything that you mentioned too, but it's different from the traditional game. Everything kind of comes out. You can throw shots. The points go on for longer. The speed, the ball doesn't necessarily travel faster, but because the court is so small, it's actually a quicker paced game. And everybody that comes over from the traditional highlight world, it's quick. I mean, these guys are
Mm-hmm.
athletes. They're moving. I mean, to play one of those points to go on for 4 or 5 minutes, I mean, you're exerting a lot of energy on every throw. I mean, first of all, they're catching it for that long,
Yeah.
and then to go on and it's incredible. So, yeah, I mean, I really just think that the design of the court really affords for more shot making, and that's really what's exciting about the Magic City style.
Is this the Renegade season and everyone else is just playing in it? Or do you think there's a team that can actually test them? Because they've been pretty
Yeah,
dominant. Like, they might be setting a record for like most points in a season.
yeah, they've been hot. The thing about the Renegades is they are a very top heavy team. I mean, they have the best big three in highlight. I don't think it's really questionable. I mean, Gaucheri and Iraq's just the duo and the team. That's one team that you can count on for 8, 9 wins a year, which is awesome. Then Gaucheri's just, I mean, he's a dog. I mean, there's no other way to put it. I mean, he is the best. He's the best player. He's the LeBron, Tiger, whatever you want to call him. And then Goenaga is a light version of Gaucheri, but his shot making and then what he's doing in the 5 division with Flores, I mean, they're just tearing people apart. I don't see that team losing. They have a couple weaknesses right now. Correa and Flores are playing really well. Correa's been he's been playing on another level in that team specifically. And then Correa and Ben, which is their 4 team, they haven't played a ton of matches. I think they probably have 6 or 7 left. So, point being, I think we've seen a lot of their good teams go Sherry and
Mm-hmm.
Aratz, go Sherry and Ben, go Anaga and Aratz, and go Anaga and Flores. And they have 2 teams that are kind of weak. So,
Yeah.
I
I'm
think
right.
they're,
You're saying you're reading
yeah,
my mind right now. I'm
they,
like,
yeah,
their
no,
Division 4 and their Division 6 team. That's where the weakness is.
right. And they're built for the regular season and they're built for this style of highlight. And there's some teams in sports that, they're regular season teams, but just when it comes down for the playoffs, they
Mm.
can't get it done. You think about what it would take in a 7 match series. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
Gaucheri and Aratz are going to be favored against whoever they play. Gaucheri and Ben, for whatever reason, I think the 2 times that the Renegades were in the championship or the semifinals and they didn't win, Gaucheri and Ben lost. Ben
Mm-hmm.
didn't have his best stuff, and Gaucheri, I just I don't know, it just wasn't their best day, for
Sometimes
whatever
go
reason. But
Sherry he tires himself out because he
yeah,
tries to do a little bit too much, and
yeah,
if they go 3 sets, you can find
right,
Go Cherry makes an error reaching for a play that he should maybe trust Ben to make.
sure. But you just got to live with Gaucheri being the guy and taking those. But again, that second team, it's not a gimme. I mean, depending on who they play, if they play the Chargers, Iturbe and Benny, that's a strong team. I mean, if they play Douglas and Manny, that's no easy game. And who else? That would be the Fireballs or the Cyclones. So, I mean, you put them up against Hormachea and Ikeda for the Fireballs. I mean, oh, sorry, no, that would be Hormachea and Ubia for the Fireballs. I mean, people could match up with that second team. Goenaga and Aratz are tough, but Correa and Ben, you can't count on them to win, and you're not really going to count on your 6 team to win. And I think their 5 Goenaga and Flores are going to beat everybody. So if you look at it that way, there's 2
Mm-hmm.
guarantees, there's 2 that they're not going to win, and then there's 2 that are toss ups. Anything can happen in a playoff day. But with this regular season and the way that we have it, where every point matters, this team, I think, is going to do some crazy stuff and put up a ridiculous amount of points just because they have 4 teams that legitimately could go undefeated. I looked at the stats today. Aratz hasn't lost a doubles match. Goenaga
Mm-hmm.
hasn't lost a doubles match. I think Gaucheri's lost 1. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that. But again, you got to play all 10 matches. You got to play everybody. I think their schedule has been a little light, and they'll have some tests, and we'll see what they're made of, and we'll see if those weaker teams can step up.
Give me your power rankings right now.
Oh man,
Your
well,
back Bleckman's Battle Court
so
power rankings.
obviously you have to go with the Renegades at 1 right now. 2, 2 is a toss up. I mean, the Warriors are the defending champions, but in this season where the 5 and the 6 have to play together and they don't have a ton of front court depth. I mean, they have Douglas, but then you see they switch Nicholas and Julian on their 3 team. They switch Stan and Manny on their 4 team. They're still trying to figure things out. And the reality is
Mm-hmm.
they just don't have front quarters. And that was my concern with the team coming into this season. They were able to freeze 4 players. They froze Douglas, Nicholas, Julian, and Manny. Now that kind of puts them in a little bit of a bind because their next best front quarter is Stan, and now Stan is playing in the back in both teams. So, yes, it's good to have talent, but sometimes you just need a true front quarter to win those 1, 2, and 3 matches. So that's why I would put the Chargers ahead of the Warriors right now. So I go 1 Renegades, Chargers 2, just Zuleika, Iturbide, Benny. That big 3 is better than the Warriors just because they have more shot makers. So the Warriors would be 3 then. 4, the Fireballs are an interesting team. Hormachea he was out last game day, and he's going to be out for 1 more game day. And then I think he'll be back for the rest of the year. Because I don't know if Stu has said that, but he's been going back and forth from
Yeah.
Spain and
Mm-hmm.
working. So it's a tough schedule for him. So he's going to be out the next game day. So when he comes back and healthy, Hormachea and Ikeda are going to play a lot. Inaki's going to get healthy. So I just think the Fireballs are a team that, I think they're just going to get better. But truthfully, when I think about it, what we're seeing today, given the injuries for the Cyclones, I probably would put them 4. I'd put the Fireballs at 5, and I'd put the Devils at 6. I mean, the way that Bueno's been battling is admirable. Manu is, I mean, he's world class. I mean, you can put him up. He's a top 2 backcourter in the world, regardless of who you talk to. I mean, Lopez and Manu are the
Mm-hmm.
best two. I mean, it was a shame we didn't get Lopez had difficult partnerships. I mean, for his first season, and also nobody has really adjusted to the court in that little amount of time. So
Yeah.
that team is strong. Again, they're only going to get better as they get healthier. Amiga Reyna was playing great when he went out.
Mm-hmm.
So Ferunda dropped down a level. I think he's solid. I mean, he's not gonna do anything like Goenaga. He's not as much of a killer and a shot maker up in the front, but he's been playing highlight for 35 years. You know, he's just going to stand in there. He'll catch. He's got great endurance, and he's just a player. So that's where I would go. So Renegades, Chargers, Warriors, Cyclones, Fireballs, Devils. Yeah, the Devils. I mean, I think they're going to get better, but like having a one like Alex that is coming over for a season, like Alex is an amazing player. I've seen what he's done overseas, and he's like a better version of like Carballo, exciting, explosive, but just a lot more control. But he just hasn't. It's. I mean, then you got to play Gaucheri, Douglas, Zuleika, Eater.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you never have a day off when you're a one. And the reality, you're just never going to put him as a favorite against any of those guys that have the
Yeah.
experience advantage. So it's really a tough situation for him. I mean, he's battling his way through it, and I think they're going to get some wins. But it's just, I think that's the only team that at this point you'd probably say it's a 5-team race for 4 spots.
It's
But the
been a
one spot, yeah,
tough
one
season
spot
for the
seems like done.
Devils.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
no, absolutely. But they're
So
fighting.
I've got quick fill in the blank questions for you, and then two
Please,
more
yeah,
two more questions after this. So
yeah.
you can fill in you don't need to use one word. You can complete the sentence.
Mm-hmm.
Highlight is blank.
Highlight is say on the rise. I think that's
Mm.
I like that. There's a lot of good stuff in the works. We just announced our schedule for 2025, so we're coming back. I think it was January 21st start day and
Okay.
May 9th championship. So that's going to be the spring of 2025. Every year we keep growing, we keep getting better players, we keep getting better sponsorship, deals with sports books and sponsorships and all that. So, you know, Battle Court wasn't really an idea. I think probably 5 years ago. I think in the last 4 years, it's really come to fruition and it's grown every single season. There's more players that I think are interested now overseas, and the crop of talent that there is, I think people would be surprised. The sport is
Mm-hmm.
really, I mean, it's been big over in the Basque country in Spain, but in the last couple of years, it's really taken off again. So many good, exciting young players. I know there's going to be I mean, I know there's going to be some more exciting players coming from overseas next season, so that'll be something to look forward to. There'll be a couple of those, and then these guys are going to get better and better. That we have some players might be coming back from previous seasons that are world class. So there's a lot of good stuff, a lot of good players. The league's growing, and I just think everything is trending up for highlight.
Absolutely. The best player in Battle Court is blank.
Wow. I mean, I could say go Sherry, but I think I want to shout somebody else out. I think one of the best players in Battle Court is Nicholas. I think if you look like an NFL comparison, they talk about like a high motor guy. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't get any more high motor than Nicholas. I mean, he
Mm-hmm.
fights every throw, every point, every match, whatever you want to say, every cliche. I mean, he fights for his team. He's a winner. He's a great teammate. He's a great leader, and he always just seems to win. I mean, he and Douglas have worked out into a great partnership. He and Julian, I mean, it's not a great situation for either of them having to like play out of position, and haven't really had a lot of success. But I think you have to look at his overall body of work and what he's done for the Warriors, filling in when Inaki's been out, playing out of position, playing hard, playing through bicep injuries and highlight is that's sick stuff. And he just always does it.
Yeah.
I mean, he never complains, never stops, gets hit by every ball off the sidewall. and he just keeps going. And you have to admire that. It'll be interesting with Nicholas because next year he has reached his limit of freezes. So Nicholas is not going to be. He's going to be in the draft. I mean,
Actually,
could
could you
Nicholas
explain
be a
that? Because
one?
Benny
Yeah,
talked about that, and I was curious to learn more about that. So there's a
sure.
limit that you can
Yeah,
freeze players.
I think by the rules, I think you can be frozen for 3 seasons, but an expansion when an expansion team comes into a draft, that doesn't count towards one of the 3 years. So now we're going to be into season 7, and there's been now 3 drafts where these guys have been frozen. So the excuse me, the group of players includes Benny, Aratz, and Nicholas. So they've been frozen every single year on the same team. So now they've reached the limit, and I don't know if there's anybody else that, like, Hyro's got to be close. He's been frozen on the
Hmm.
Devils for a while. CRB's got to be close. Doesn't apply to the number ones though. The number ones, like, you're not gonna. The Renegades, like, what are they gonna do after they win? They don't
Yeah.
get Gaucheri back. Like, that kind of stinks. Like, you got to be able to freeze your one every year.
Darn, I was gonna say like that was so
Yeah,
smart
I
of the
wanted to come.
Cyclones to
Yeah,
not freeze Manu like two
yeah.
seasons ago.
So yeah, the rule is 3
Well, I don't
non-expansion
want to lose
drafts.
Manu anyway.
No, 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 no. You can't. You can't get rid of Manu. So 3 non-expansion drafts. So Nicholas is going to be a free agent, if you will. And I mean, it really depends who comes back. I mean, what players we have. I assume and I believe there's going to be 6 teams. And you know, would you put him over Alex as a one for the Devils? I mean, that's tough. I mean, you may not have a lot of wins in singles, but Nicholas is going to fight, and in doubles, he's just. I mean, he is as good as Manu. I mean, what he lacks in size and power, he makes up for with his heart and his determination. So he's really just an awesome player and
Hmm.
great dude. So yeah, I'd say Nick. Long-winded answer for Nicholas. So yeah, we got off a tangent there, but that's good information. So those
La-
3 will not be frozen. So look out for that next draft.
okay.
That's fun.
Last fill in the blank question here.
Yeah.
Fault, overserve, battle court rules blank.
Oh my god. Battle court rules allow for 2 serves. Second serve must be good. I mean, that's just you gave me an absolute layup.
There you go.
That's so
See,
funny. Yeah. Oh God, Nate. That's that's
a
laugh
good
out
serve
loud.
must land between a 4 and 7, right?
That's really fun. A good serve always lands between the 4 and the 7. So, all right. Well, I'll say this. I kind of did that. I was like kind of like trolling Stu when I started to say it.
Hmm.
There's another thing that's always said, a hard fought match, like 6-0, 6-0. And I'm like,
Or
that's
there will
not really
not
hard
be a
fought.
shutout.
There will not be a fight. There will not be a shot. That happened today, and I always like make comments. We have so much fun in like the headset. There's all the people like
Hmm.
that work on the cameras and in the back and the front camera and the producers. So there's a lot of people that are in the headset with Stu and I, and there's a lot of jokes that go around. But between me and my friends and Benny and I, we all fall over surf. That's one of them. So that's great.
All right. So last two questions. I gotta, I
Please,
gotta,
yeah,
I gotta go get a guess. So I'm gonna be
yeah,
right back.
Andrew, I've come to ask you, do you ride with Clone Cartel?
absolutely.
Go ahead, explain your love for Clone Cartel. Profess your love.
Well, you guys are just passionate fan base. You guys love the sport. You're here for the grind of the regular season. And look, it's been a tough couple of years for the Cyclones. They came out hot, won the first championship. A lot of people hopped on board, and they've had a loyal fan base that hasn't really had a lot of success. And I think they may be rewarded in the near
Whoa,
future.
whoa,
So
first championship here. Whoa, don't.
well, I said outside of the first championship, it's been
Okay,
the last
okay.
couple of years. So look, the Clone Cartel is an awesome group, by far the strongest fan base. I could say that easily, um, and good things
Darn
on the
straight.
horizon. Good things on the horizon for them.
Now the last, how did we only get 3 Friday Night Frontons? Explain it to me. 3. Why were we snubbed? Why?
What do you mean? The Friday Night
Yeah,
Fronton?
we got 3 Friday nights, Blechman. Fireball's got like 5.
Oh,
We're only
I
at
don't
3
know.
Friday nights.
I don't look. I'm not throwing anybody under the bus, but I gave a Friday night schedule that had everybody playing an even number of Friday nights, and that schedule
Thank
wasn't
you.
good. That's all I'm going to say. I tried to make it even for
Thank
everybody.
you.
Next thing I know, schedule's out. It's not even. I'm not naming names. I'm not going to do that. I'm just saying I tried. So, you know, I'll try again next year. But I
Try
think
harder.
I think it'll be. I think it'll be more even. Only 3 Friday nights. That's it.
That's it. Only
Well,
3. Next season
when
I
we
want 5.
Yeah, I mean, you would. That's tough. I'm sorry, Clone Cartel. That's an oversight, and that won't happen again. I mean, especially for the best fan base. I mean,
I
you
know.
know, like it makes sense. Like if we had to play a game, God forbid in London overseas, we wouldn't send. The Cones wouldn't take that as a home game. Their fans are too strong. Could be like a Devils home game or like a Fireballs home game, but you'd never.
Mhm.
Cones deserve more love, and they should have more home games in the front on. So we'll do that.
Give me a whoosh whoosh here.
No, we'll give you a whoosh whoosh. I'm a Cane, so we can do that. Bueno had a good one today.
Thank you, sir. Well, thank you for joining us, and God bless Alai.
God bless Alai. Thanks for having me.